Now I would like to introduce our 2020 AIA LA President and a Principal at HKS Architects, Mr. Greg Varabian, AIA.
Thanks, Steve, and congratulations to all of you. I know quite a few of you, and for those I don't know, I look forward to a time when I can get to know you in person. But good evening and welcome to our first ever, and maybe we should hope it's our last ever, virtual New Fellows reception. I'll just leave it at that.
May indeed be our last.
Okay. Well, typically the Fellows receive their medal and pin at an investiture ceremony at an AIA's national conference. This year that would have been here and in the amazing Orpheum Theater on Broadway. And there was also going to be a more formal convocation dinner. And, and locally we've had a long tradition of holding these, receptions hosted by for a number of years by our friends at Bulltop in LA. Since this year's class of new fellows missed that opportunity to be honored in person, we want to do the next best thing and congratulate them from home or wherever they might be, maybe somewhere on a beach, if they're lucky. We all happen to be in a remote place this evening. Of course, we hope that we can get together soon. We hope we can celebrate in real life when circumstances permit. And now we're honored to have two special guests via video to say a few words about our new fellows and about the significance of this honor. And from AIA National, please welcome AIA's 2020 President Jane Friedrich, FAIA, and the AIA Executive Vice President and Chief Executive Officer, Robert Ivy, FAIA.
Hello, I'm Jane Friedrich, President of the American Institute of Architects. And thank you for inviting me here tonight to help celebrate AIA LA's new fellows. Welcome to the fold. It's such a great accomplishment in recognition of years of hard work. I wish I was there in LA with you, but I look forward to putting the medal around your neck next year in Philadelphia. A toast to the new fellows. Congratulations.
Hello, friends in Los Angeles, with particular thoughts for the honorees tonight, Barbara and Avi, Eric, Sarah, John and Karen, Yunyak, Neil, Alex, Roger, James, Warren, and Mario. This is Robert Ivy, offering my full congratulations to you from my home in Washington, to you all, my good friends in Los Angeles. I wish so much that I could be with you. We all thought that we would be there with you this evening to celebrate your fellowship, a well-deserved honor. But the world changed, didn't it? We're in a very different place from where we were in March when I was last in Los Angeles before the lockdown. I've been at home since March 9th, some of you since about that time. And what began with COVID-19 and being isolated and separated from each other has now really changed into a revolutionary moment in some ways, in which we are confronting and dealing with systemic racism, something that we are committed to eradicate and to work toward the eradication of through our work and our own personal lives. What I would say is that you have certainly earned the distinction that you are receiving, and we are proud for you and to welcome you into this group. But in a way, it's ironic because we need your services now more than we ever have in many ways. Think about it, in some ways, it is a revolutionary moment. What is going to be the nature of work? We know it's changing. What about education? How are we going to bring a new generation along? And I know several of you are particularly interested in that issue. Public spaces. What will be the character of safe or defensible public spaces in the future? And how can we achieve equitable housing something that we sorely need for all citizens. This is a time of challenge, and fellows are particularly well suited to help address it with a new generation. So I challenge you to join all of us in these pursuits. There's wonderful work to be done and important work to be done, and who better than you? So thank you. Enjoy your evening. I look forward to shaking your hand, not virtually, but really, one day in the not too distant future, I hope. With all best wishes, thanks.
Well, it's good to know that technology is working tonight, finally. So that's good. Thanks for sharing that, Steve, with everybody. And now it's time to introduce the co-chairs of the AIA Los Angeles Fellows Nominating and Mentoring Committee, who will introduce this year's fellows. Please welcome John Mutlow, FAIA, and Krista Becker, FAIA.
Thank you, Greg. Fellowship is a significant honor, the highest accolade that the AA bestows. Of course, becoming a fellow represents the personal accomplishments and ripple effect of the nominee. We always talk about the ripple effect, and that's one of Marvin Taft's favorite little words. But it also takes a great deal of time, effort, and personal reflection to create a successful submission. The AIA Fellows Committee, which is a committee of the AIA-LA with 20+ members, and thank you for all your volunteers who are members and or mentors of the committee. We identify, nominate, mentor, and support highly qualified architect members in building and refining their submissions. There were 33 candidates this year who submitted. Our objective was, as this was supposed to be the AIA-LA 2020 Los Angeles event, national event, that we would have many, many of our members on stage. And so we were successful with 13 honorees, which has in fact been the second largest number that we have actually had, I think, in the history of the AIA-LA chapter. So thank you, committee members, for your real effort and assistance. We want to acknowledge not just the committee members, but I want to acknowledge former committee chairs. I really want to thank Marv Taft, who was a co-chair for 18, 19 years with me. He retired last year from being co-chair. We also want to thank Sarah Dennison, who was also a co-chair for about 4 years. Then Andrea Cohen-Gehring took over, and she has just retired. I'm not sure if retired is the correct word, but anyway, retired from being chair of the committee this year, and she was one of the chairs for this group of nominees who were elevated. I also want to personally, and this is as much a committee as a personal thing, you know, occasionally you have some members of the chapter who really, I think, excel in donating their time to the AIA and the good of the profession and the good of society. So I really want to, we as a committee, recognize both Ron Altoon and Chet Witham, who both were national AIA presidents. And we all know what that means. That means a year of your life has gone in terms of helping others. So we really want to thank both of them. And just in closing, please remember all that this is a celebration. There will be a toast at the end. So please get your bottle of wine ready. Here's my bottle with the opener ready to go. So get your bottle of wine ready, because we will be toasting the new nominees at the end of our celebration. Krista.
Thanks, John. I also want to thank Andrea and Pam with the DLR group for hosting our fellowship committee meetings. It was a wonderful opportunity. Unfortunately, we're going virtual for the rest of them, but we did have 2 meetings there this year, which was wonderful. And I especially want to thank the entire fellowship committee. This is a volunteer effort, and we have an amazing group of folks who only want to help those with their nomination packages and to help make their submissions stronger, even if it requires a little tough love. They're an amazing group, and we would be very challenged to do this without them. So thank you to all of you who are on the line. John?
Yes, it's not entirely, I guess, accurate to say that fellows are deprived totally of a formal investiture, because we hopefully will have a surprise for them later this evening.
Yes, in honor of this year's fellows, the folks at Shimahara Visual have created a look at the investiture ceremony might have been. Steve, roll the tape.
Might have been. Well, thanks to I guess it's Shimahara for doing that. It's very much appreciated. I guess that was a motley crew. Not sure if they liked the background, but best we could do. At least it was an attempt. The next step is that we will announce the 13 new fellows. Chris and I will read a summary of their statements. And then we've asked each of them to share a few words with the rest of the fellows. And what has basically achieved, what does it mean to achieve fellowship to them? And what do they have in terms of their hopes moving forward?
So we're going to start with Barbara. Congratulations, Barbara Fleming. Barbara fundamentally changed downtown Los Angeles by leading her firm's transformative work in the city's historic core. Her enlightened management practices have tenaciously advanced equity, diversity, and inclusivity for nearly 40 years. Congrats, Barbara.
Barbara, go on chat.
Here I go.
If you're here.
I'm here.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. I love Craig's taking all the wrinkles out of my face, so I could use that anytime. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. It's indeed an honor to be among this group of distinguished colleagues who have contributed so much to our profession. I'd like to give a special shout out to my sponsor, Aline Windeman, my mentor, Krista Becker, for believing that I belonged in this group, and who were both very polite and encouraging when reviewing my application, reminding me that perhaps I could do just a little bit better in making my case, but very politely all along. I'd also like to thank my reference letter writers, Bill Fain, Martha Wellborn, Angie Brooks, Rocky Rockefeller, Karin LILJEGREN, Linda Tishman, and Tricia Hamachai. So I am very proud of the work that I've done to contribute to the revitalization of our wonderful city, and for working over the past 40 years to build a diverse and inclusive practice. But I think we can all agree, as Robert referred to, that our profession has a really long way to go in this regard, and that the circle of this group needs to get larger. This is an urgent problem, and we all need to do our part to solve it. So, along with my younger colleagues, I look forward to participating in concrete processes with tangible, measurable results that make diversity, inclusivity, and mentorship fully realized across all architectural firms in LA and nationwide. Thank you.
Congratulations, Barbara.
Thank you, John.
Well deserved. Just in case anybody would like to know, we are doing this alphabetical. Everybody, of course, is a fellow. That means we're all basically in the same group. The next member that was elevated to fellow is Avi Grigoresco. Avi determined to improve the way people experience hospitals. Avi has masterfully altered the development, design, and construction of medical facilities to provide an instant positive reality for patients, doctors, nurses, and the surrounding community. Avi.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity to be reflective tonight. So let me start by thanking my dear friend and colleague of 15 years, my sponsor, Ernest Siragel of HOK, FAIA, and the committee that helped me shape my submission. You were rough, you were careful, you were kind, and you stuck with me to get it just right. I want to also my letter writers, you know, I think from David Moon, FAIA, FACHA, Moon Majoras in San Diego, and then Victor Albert Renier, the distinguished professor of architecture and gerontology at the USC. Michael Kim, AIA, CHA, and DBIA, and Michael Lehman of AIA, and Keith Fine, AIA, Stephen Wen, AIA, and lastly, Joseph Kastner, AIA, and RIBA. A great group of colleagues and friends that really took an interest in the success of my career. And I'll mention also my mentor of 10 years, Rebecca Gladson, FAIA, former chancellor, former campus architect at UC Irvine. But this is a moment of reflection. So thank you. I'm glad to be here because this is a moment where I'm in awe of life. This is not something that I had on my 5-year or 15-year or 20-year plan to someday get an F after my name. But we all, I think, we just go about doing life. But life is interesting and it has twists and turns and what I call it the Promethean gift, the spark forethought that comes to us rarely, once in a while, and if we are paying attention, we have an opportunity to receive the gift, and should we choose to accept it. What neuroscience calls this nowadays is flow, and Stephen Kotler has written several books about flow. It's that moment of clarity when the whole universe distills in front of your mind's eye, and there's no debate, there's no argument, there's just clarity, it's just for you to act on. Let me explain that. Two such moments come into memory right now. One back in the 80s, and the first moment will explain the second. Back in the 80s, one night, none other than a Cinco de Mayo dinner party, 9 friends at the round table in a Szechuan restaurant in Newport Beach. And the blonde to my left reads her fortune cookie, says, accept the next proposal. Well, so for the Olympians, this is an obvious stroke of fate. I had to ask, she had to say yes, and she's sitting right next to me tonight. The second moment of clarity came in 1999 when I was at Signa Harris Architects. That's now Perkins and Will, Boston. I was designing, I was working on a project to adapt an industrial age building 2 blocks away from Fenway Park into what was then the newly minted school, Harvard School of Preventive Medicine. Also that year, our first grandson was born, and my wife was diagnosed with cancer. Nothing to worry about. We had the best healthcare plan available in the country at that time, the Harvard Pilgrim Vanguard program. No limits, no barriers, no guardrails, just Harvard-trained doctors asked to practice the art of healing. But with my architect's eye, I was appalled at what I found out was my wife's experience. And I was appalled at the spaces in which doctors and nurses were asked to practice the art of healing. So we finished my project, we packed our bags, went to California. The moment of clarity that year came in the form of a 9 seconds public service announcement that Boston Society of Architects, that's the Boston chapter of AIA, produced, and TV stations in town aired for about a couple of months. Imagine okay, I mean, dating myself, imagine a Saint Elsewhere moment, the frenetic 9 seconds of a person being hurried into ER on a gurney. And a very calm voice comes over this and says, well, here's the fact. The first person that will care for your healing tonight won't be the nurse or the attending physician, but the architect that designed the ER. That was my second moment of clarity. And the reason I'm here tonight is it's probably a proof that the next 20 years were not a waste of effort. There's a special, unique group of, we call ourselves healthcare architects, individuals full of devotion, gratitude, selflessness, that have only one thought in their mind, is how to improve the healing experience. And I'm privileged to be a member of that group. So I'm privileged to have an F next to my name and join the rest of you tonight and for all the days to come. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Congrats, Avi. Our next person that we're going to be celebrating is Eric Haas, FAIA, integrating poetic design and progressive conservatism. Eric infuses faded structures with fresh vitality. Through astute programming and rejuvenated, enriched architecture, he effects transformational change in the lives of buildings and communities. Congrats, Eric.
Thanks, Krista, and thanks everyone for coming tonight. Hopefully everybody's already opened their bottles of wine. I don't know why John's waiting. But anyway, I do want to thank John as my mentor, and Alice Kim, I don't believe is on the call tonight, is my sponsor, and everyone who wrote me letters. Some of you guys are here, and women are here tonight. So thank you, and thank you also to those of you who were tough on me during the process. You know who you are. It was really great. It felt like being back in school and having a really tough crit, which is exactly what you need to advance yourself. It's an incredible honor to be here among this great group. I feel really welcomed by those of you who I didn't really know until achieving fellowship and getting to meet you, and certainly my fellow new fellows, an incredibly distinguished group. I don't have a lot to say. I'll just, I was thinking a little bit about this designation as the kind of climbing to a base camp on a mountain hike where you've kind of achieved a great platform. It takes a lot to get there, but it is not the end of the journey, and it's a kind of foundation upon which to build even greater things. So I think that that's what fellowship is all about. I know that that's the kind of mandate that a lot of us feel, and I'm honored to be a part of this group. So thanks again for everybody.
Congratulations, Eric.
Thanks, John.
The next honoree is Sarah MEEKER-Jensen, FAIA. Super effectively cross-trained, I like that word, as an architect, business administrator, and contractor. Sarah MEEKER-Jensen's focus on healthcare economics has forged a new nationally recognized model for facility planning and design while envisioning the health system of the future. Sarah.
Thank you, John. When I wrote that, I certainly hoped nobody would ever read it aloud to a group of 139 people, but anyway.
No better than that.
I'm really excited that we are celebrating tonight in a way that we will never forget. Everybody talks about their FAIA investiture with such, it was sort of the most amazing event of their lives. And I think this may well be one of those kind of watershed moments for all of us. Shortly after becoming licensed, while I was working at Moore, Linden, Turnbull, Whitaker, I went directly off track in terms of being an architect and worked here and there and spent the last 20 years building a practice which has been really focused on healthcare, facility repositioning, and consulting. So really profoundly different, and I never exactly envisioned myself being qualified to become a fellow. That was until I started listening to our politicians talk about how they're the architect of the Grassley bill or some other thing. And I thought, wow, I think that being an architect is something we should all be proud of and honor and sort of dig into more meaningfully and not let the title be thrown around. So I began to think about pursuing this honor. And with the help of my longtime friend, Ricky Binder, who's on the call tonight, who became a fellow in 1991. I think she was one of the first women fellows and definitely the youngest at that time at 30 years old or something. Ricky has been a great friend and ally, traveling together, and she's kept me on the straight and narrow with my learning units, which were falling off frequently. And then she pushed me through the process together with Jonathan Kanda, who called me every 2 weeks religiously to check on my progress and ask if I had gotten things submitted. So I think these ceremonies are how we take pride in our profession. It's very meaningful. It gives me kind of a new impetus to grow and to give back. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm very grateful.
Congratulations, Sarah.
Congrats, Sarah.
Thank you, Chris.
The next nominee, or the next honoree, is John Kalinsky, FAIA. John is an urban design leader whose writings, teachings, public and private practice, service, civil engagement, advanced participatory design practices locally, nationally, and internationally, while elevating community-based design to transform Southern California cities. Is John available? Is he with us?
Unfortunately, I think had to leave us to work, to go to a meeting. We will definitely be sharing some more profiles of the new fellows in the weeks to come. So hopefully we can get a statement from him to share with everyone on social media.
Congratulations, John. So John, I'm going to turn it over to you for the next honoree.
Next honoree is KARIN LILJEGREN, FAIA. KARIN elevates the architect's role in urban revitalization, creating a nationally applicable model for the practice of adaptive reuse by driving citywide policy innovation, strengthening industry expertise, and empowering community growth. KARIN.
Hello, I'm Karin, and I think I just want to start with how difficult the actual application and submission process was. AIA was great about leading us through the whole thing, but it was very difficult to start everything with I, and having this ego, like to evaluate your whole life as opposed to having a whole life that's about we. So that was a really interesting process, and as difficult as it was, and I know Barbara and I talked about this a few times, that how fruitful at the end to just like have this 40-page document of all that stuff. So thank you so much, the AIA. Certainly, all my letter writers and helpers, but specifically Michael Martin and Annie Chu, and especially Barbara and Wade, my mentors of 25 years. I also just wanted to say, like, these last 4 months have been crisis after crisis after crisis. And I know I'm exhausted. I'm sure a lot of you are really exhausted. And when some of you talked about, you know, reevaluating, and it really is amazing to think about how much amazing things can come out of exhaustion and reevaluating your life and your company's life and your profession as a whole. And it's really actually exciting and inspiring to think about all the things we're going to do with all of this change, because I know we're all thinking about amazing things. And in particular, I mean, I think for us, policy and advocacy is something that we're really excited about. Okay, you can tell I'm too exhausted. Sorry. You know, just like helping writing policy with the city and making change, specifically with adaptive reuse projects, working with the 2040 plan and really kind of dialing in specifically the adaptive reuse there. We really want to amp up, especially another crisis of, you know, sustainability and bringing that in, especially with existing buildings, because I think there's a real lack of knowledge of how to bring sustainability into existing buildings. We all just say, hey, we're reusing these buildings, it's the best thing you can do, but I know sustainability always gets cut from a lot of the projects they're working on, so finding ways to find value for our owners and the projects, and to create incentives, you know, working on the climate network, heritage network with OHR, and then of course, equality and we started an equality and equity committee, starting to work with the AIA and NOMA, and then hopefully that's going to turn into policy at the city or wherever, you know, we can be a catalyst for change. And then our approach that I'm giving is really this kind of like macro, micro. So we got the macro with the policy, but the micro is really the human-centered design, because I think that's the other thing I've really gotten out of these last 4 months, is how important our spaces are as human beings, whether it's wellness or social impact. And really excited to be working on all these things. So thank you so much. And I think with the F, that even gives more, I don't want to say authority, but like oomph to our voices when you have an F. So thank you.
Karin, congratulations.
Congrats, Karin. Our next honoree is Yu Ok Lo, a Long Beach South Bay member and chapter affiliate of AIA-LA. ULOC inspires and provides resources for immigrant architects, advances the AIA call for diversity, gives AIA members overseas a voice in the profession, and educates emerging professional students through his leadership and journalism. Congrats, ULOC.
Thank you very much. Thank you for, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I want to thank you first, the AIA-LA chapter, the nominating and mentoring committee. I mean, really couldn't have done it without your help. Being an immigrant myself, getting fellowship has a very special meaning to me. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Bill, my sponsor, who's here tonight, and also Kevin, my mentor. It's really great mentor. I mean, their help has been unconditional, so really thank them. I will make this short. I just want you guys to know that check out the latest versions, the latest issues of the College of Fellow newsletter. We put a lot of time into it to put all the fellows into one big page. So check it out. It's cool. And thank you for the video, by the way. Thank you for making it less painful.
Congratulations, you. The next elevated member is Neil Matsuno. Neil, through evidence-based practice, Neil's work proves how design of the built environment positively impacts people's lives. Collaborating with leading social scientists, he leads holistic project approach to sustainability, health, wellness, diversity, and inclusion. Neil.
Thank you, John. When I wrote those, very carefully selected words over a year ago, I couldn't have imagined how the world would change so dramatically. The amount of change that we've experienced in the last 4 months has been staggering, and you're experiencing a real sea change in the norms to both public health and civil rights. The subject of health and wellness that I had referred to has a whole new dimension and meaning these days. The subject of diversity, equity, inclusion has risen to a new level of consciousness and a move to action. We are truly in the midst of an exciting new era. As architects, we face the challenge of designing safe and sustainable environments and commit to social justice and an equitable future for all. This is a great honor being made a fellow, and I'd like to acknowledge this accomplishment has been made possible from a much larger village that I exist, including the work of Moore Rubel Udell and key guidance and mentorship from Buzz Udell and John Rubel for over 30 years. The camaraderie and support of my fellow principals, Jeannie Chen, James O'Connor, and Mario Violich, who you'll be hearing from later. My letter writers, including those from Los Angeles, John Gormley and Kimono Numa. The AIA LA Fellows Committee, including John, Krista, and Steve. And lastly, to my wife, Lori, for her unwavering love and support. And thanks to my daughters, Elise and Aaron, for putting up with me. So thank you all.
Congrats, Neil. Our next honoree is Alex Walsh O'Brien, FAIA. A leader in design management and project delivery, Alex has profoundly shaped kindergarten through college education environments with a client's strategic vision, planning, and design excellence, benefiting almost 1 million Southern California students. Congrats, Alex.
Thank you. And really, I have to thank this chapter, because I wouldn't have even thought about applying to be a fellow. And I really want to thank the chapter's efforts for helping us, because I can't imagine I could have done this without the chapter. Especially Chet Whittam, who was my sponsor, Elena Giovanni, who was the original person who said, Alex, why aren't you applying? To Andrea Garing, who I've known for years, and her husband Mike, who used to sit next to me at Dan Dworsky's office, and to John Gormley, who really helped me a lot through this process. So I also want to talk about, I'm going to mention Dan Dworsky and Bob Newsom because I worked with them for so many years, but I want to talk about the district. You can't imagine having the support of an organization like that, where you can really be entrusted and supported to manage almost $5 billion in projects. And I want to thank Christina Tokes and Aaron Bridgewater and Mark Hovatter for that support. The leadership at the district has been terrific. The other thing about the district and about all of this work is it couldn't happen without this fantastic team. There's so much talent at the district, and we probably don't have that reputation, but many of the individual people that work with me really deserve it. I also need to recognize that I work with 30-some architecture firms, and so many of you have contributed to this success. The most important thing I try to do every day is just what you all do, which is to make the world a better place. And it's been challenging waiting to see our projects develop. It's taken us many years, but our mission has been simple, and I just emphasize the simplest things. The kids, the children are who we need to speak to with our buildings. And with our efforts and our design, we need to tell them we value them. So I'm going to toast. I haven't had a drink yet, but I'm going to now. I'm going to toast all of you. Thanks a lot for the honor, and thanks for all the hard work you did to help me.
Hey, congratulations, well deserved. Well deserved. Our next elevated member is Roger Sherman, FAIA. Many of us have known Roger for a long time as both an educator and a practitioner. Roger's influential thinking in project writing and teaching has advanced the profession of understanding of contemporary city form and city life. His inventive but rigorous work has resulted in new paradigms in urban resilience, housing, and public space. Please welcome and congratulate Roger Sherman.
Thank you, John. And thank you, John. I was trying to dwell a little bit on why I was having so many difficulties getting my image to appear on this Zoom, while in every other Zoom that I do every day, there's no problem at all. And I ultimately attributed it to the fact that I'm probably the most reluctant of all the applicants for the fellow of the AIA. In fact, it was a combination of having written for all of the people who in the end insisted that they write for me prior to get to them who had become fellows. And I started looking around me and thinking, what's this? What's going on here? And so it was largely due to the fact that I was a little bit shamed by them in a nice kind of way to maybe shine a light on myself. That motivated me to do this, as well as the fact that I wasn't sure how many more years John was going to be around to help with the coaching. So I decided that I ought to strike while the iron was hot. So keep that going, John. But you know, joking aside, it was really, I think somebody said it very well a little earlier, it just was it was never a goal of mine to become a fellow of the AIA. I really just love architecture, and I just enjoy the ride, as they say. And so it was as if I really hadn't given much thought to it, except peripherally in writing letters for others. I think probably for me, it was less pain than it was a pleasure of just having an opportunity to take a pause and take stock a little bit of what I had accomplished. I'm not really a person who looks back at what I've done. I'm a person who really tends to look forward at what I have yet to do, and also look to the right and left and see what I'm currently immersed with. And that keeps me really going. That's the fuel for me. So it has a little bit, I think it explains a little bit my allergy to applying for awards and those sorts of things, which is maybe not always the best serving. But so all I wanted to say is really just thank you very much to everybody who wrote for me, John and the committee's support, and to say how honored I am to be in the company of all of you tonight.
Thanks, Roger. Congratulations. Krista, you're on mute.
There we go. Okay. Our next honoree is James Silcott, FAIA. To educate future generations of architects, James has contributed more than $3 million, making him the largest individual donor to the African American architecture students in the United States. Congratulations. I do not know if James is able to attend, but I believe we might have a representative who would like to speak on his behalf.
I think Gail Kennard is here tonight.
Yes, I saw Gail.
Gail, did you want to say a few words about James's accomplishments? Okay.
So we move to the next one. I thought Gail was here.
We can
Gail
circle
is
back
here,
maybe.
and her lips are moving.
She's muted. Can somebody tell her to
Gail,
unmute?
can you unmute your microphone, please?
Gail, unmute your mic.
She's not muted. Her sound's not working.
Oh, okay.
Gosh.
Okay, how's that?
There you
Can
go.
you hear me now? I'm
Great.
sorry.
Thank
Okay.
you. No,
Technical.
I'm
Okay.
glad that worked.
Yeah, sorry. I am here to represent James Silcott, and I'll tell you why I'm here. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here, but many of you know that I took over the running of Kennard Design Group, which was started by my late father, Robert Kennard, in Los Angeles in 1957. When my father died in 1995, James Silcott helped me to keep the firm going. We are the oldest African-American owned architecture firm in the Western United States. So the fact that he stepped up to help me was hugely significant. It's such an honor for him to receive this fellowship, especially at this time, because I asked him, I said, what would you like me to say on your behalf? And he says, well, he has been a mentor to many African-American architects, many of whom have been fellows, many of whom helped him get this fellowship. And they became fellows before he did. And he said, well, I guess it's time for me to put my hat in and see if I can be recognized. He's recognized because of his contributions, both financially and as a mentor, to several generations of African-American architects. You should understand that when he went to Howard University in the 1950s, there was very few other institutions that would accept African-Americans into their programs. Even today, 50% of African-American architects go through Howard University. And he decided that in order to make an impact on future architects, that he would contribute financially and in other ways. He established the James Silcott Chair at Howard University. Some of the people that have held that chair include Phil Freelon, the late Phil Freelon, who was one of the designers of the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. Jack Travis, Roberta Washington, there's a long list of people who went to Howard University as chairs because of his financial support. He started the Silcott Gallery there so students could exhibit their work. So financially, he's been the largest contributor to African-American architecture students in the United States. So I think it's particularly timely at this time when we're talking about the issues of African-Americans in this country that he be recognized. So I want to thank the AIA chapter. I particularly wanted to thank the African-American architects in Los Angeles who rallied behind him, who wrote letters. I thank Kevin Holland, I thank Steve Lewis, and Gabrielle Bullock, Barbara Bozas, all of the people in the African-American community in our circle of architects who helped him. And I challenge all of you to take up the mantle that James Silcott has started, pass the torch, and encourage other African-Americans to go into the schools that you went to. Encourage African-Americans to work at your firms. Encourage African-Americans to go into our profession. Sadly, only 2% of licensed architects today are African-Americans. So I hope that you will join this battle. Thank you.
Gail, thank you. And please congratulate James on our behalf.
I will.
The next elevated member is Warren TECHENTIN. Warren is also an educator and practitioner. Warren leverages his expertise in multifamily housing, digital design, and environmental responsible urbanism. Warren is a design leader integrating urban strategies into architectural form to connect buildings more intensively with people, community, and sites. Warren.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Thank you for coaching me through this whole process. I appreciate being here with everybody and being elevated to fellow. It means a lot to me. Thank you very much. I want to thank Larry Scarpa for sponsoring me. That was great. And all the people who had hard comments about the various drafts I wrote along the way to applying for this honor. I think the process is great and it causes a lot of reflection, which is nice to look at. But agree with something that's already been said in that I think of it as more of like a spot in which now we have, we need to make a bigger impact, and want to do more with this position. I've done a lot of housing, and I feel like it's still an incredible issue the city needs to engage and address. The density issue is fantastic, especially now, given COVID-19. Also, I've been very interested in kind of the development of young architects becoming in the process. I've been teaching forever and involved with a number of nonprofits, and everyone knows how long it takes to become an architect, decades and decades and decades, and it needs a lot of support and a lot of opportunities for voices. And so I'd like to continue on with all of those as well. I also have just enjoyed being a practitioner in the city enormously. I think this has an excellent architecture tradition spanning over a century. And we're doing incredible things. Obviously, we have a lot to change and a lot to address as we move forward, but proud to be part of that process. Thank you for the elevation. Appreciate it.
Congratulations, Warren.
Congrats, Warren. Our final honoree is Mario Violich, FAIA. I personally had the honor of working with him for 14 years. Mario shapes campus plans that bridge higher education and urban design. Landscape building and city are woven into dynamic, open urban compositions that engage and inspire people, revitalizing the public realm for diverse communities. Congratulations, Mario.
Thank you, thank you, Krista, and thank you to AIA LA. I wanted to first say that it's a real unique honor to congratulate NEAL Matsuno, one of the 13, and to share this this stage, this virtual stage with him. Also my colleagues at Morrill Udell, and especially the sponsor support that I had from John Rubel. I think, you know, the process for applying for fellowship to me was really about reopening the art of conversation and the importance of conversation about architecture and amongst architects and non-architects. That's something that we often don't do enough of. It's not the typical kind of conversation of, you know, flipping through magazines or, you know, surfing through websites, even the kinds of conversations that happen in the heat of meeting a deadline. These conversations that AIA LA and the fellowship process tasked us with were more about stepping back, forcing yourself to look critically at the relevancy of your work, to be challenged, as many of you have said tonight. And as some of you have mentioned tonight, I can't imagine a better framework today than to step back and look at yourself and our work critically, especially with the challenges that we're faced with in public health and social inequities and so many facets of our society. I think that, you know, for me, my passions were reaffirmed through this process. I see architecture as something that is seen through the lens of the urban landscape of cities, and particularly the public realm. My mother came from abroad. She came from Latin America. My father taught city planning. So I remember as a kid growing up, there were lots of conversations about people from other countries and other cultures and what they valued. And I remember distinctly one night, you know, we had many guests where I was growing up and over my father taught. And one guest asked my mother, you know, you've lived in Latin America and Caracas, and you've traveled the world to Europe and other places. What city in the world do you admire the most? And she said, without skipping a beat, she said, Rome. And the fellow said, well, why? What is it about Rome that you admire as a city? And she said, well, in Rome, you can get lost. And in that process of losing your sense of destination, being lost in Rome was often for her some of the most wonderful times in her life. And I never really, that always stuck with me as a kid. I think I was 10 years old. And to me, what it meant was that cities, that is the public domain, the rivers, the places of worship, the schools, the streets, they're meant to be places of discovery. And those places of discovery should also be places of belonging for everyone. And so that's that sense of commitment that many of you tonight have, and that I certainly have, to the public realm as a place for everyone and a place for discovery. I'll just say my last comment is that I'm still, Los Angeles to me is where I dream, and where for me and my wife and kids is still a place of great experimentation and innovation. And I look very much forward to the expansion of the metro, to the Olympics coming in 8 years, to the re-envisioning of the LA River. These are great points of inspiration. And I look forward to being part of that sea change here in Los Angeles into the future. And with that, I just wanted to thank again the AILA and my support cast for this elevation. So thank you very much.
Congratulations, Mario. Before we congratulate everybody, I just want to make 2 quick notes. One is that you may have noticed that we did not mention firm names. That is because we've emphasized all along the fellows do at the national level. This is an individual honor to you, not a firm honor. The second is you may have noticed that at least 2 members came from the same firm. Please understand it's an individual honor. We've been successful at doing that. So in the future, if you know of members from the same firm who deserve to be elevated because of the wonderful work they've done, please don't be afraid to nominate them. And the third is for all new members, we have plenty of room on the committee for you to join us. So hopefully some of you will next year. So now we would like to congratulate our new fellows. So please everybody take a second, unmute your mics, and let's give them a big round of applause.
Congratulations.
Thanks, everyone.
Congratulations, everyone.
Round of applause.
Yes.
Congratulations. Cheers.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Chin chin.
Congrats.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Yes, cheers.
Congratulations.
Cheers and congratulations.
Cheers, everybody.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Krista and John. I'd like to also just get another shout out to the Fellows Committee, the mentors, the sponsors, and of course the reference writers. I got to say the most fun I've had on any AIA Zoom meetings this year was the newly licensed and new members to the AIA. So that was a couple months ago, and then tonight. So I think it's a nice kind of bookended, in between kind of things that happen there. But these are the best, kind of to see people in the beginning and sort of at the sort of peak of their kind of commitment to the profession being recognized. So that's just a personal note on that. I want to thank Jane Friedrich and Robert Ivy for their kind message. Thank you to Elizabeth Parker, Brian Martinez, and of course Craig Shimahara at Shimahara Visual for creating the animated segment. I thought it was perfect. I got to start using that video style for everything. And also, obviously, thanks to our chapter staff for your support and for the fellowship process, tonight's program, including Carlo, Karin, Lori, Nick, Tibby, Will, and Steve Tanner. And once again, congratulations to all the fellows. Thank you for sharing your stories here tonight. I'd like to ask everyone to unmute yourselves again if you want to, and raise your glass and cheer and toast, or just do it in the privacy of your own, wherever you are. To our new fellows in the class of 2020, may you continue to achieve all that you aspire to, and may your vision and determination make our city and our world a better place to live. Congratulations.